Thanks, Nick. That was a great overview of the problem of contact tracing. And I think a lot of people charged with facilitating that process have been left to ask themselves, well, how are we going to do this, but also stay in compliance with HIPAA regulations? Um, and that's where Paubox's email API has really come into play for a lot of the customers who already use it. The integration is really straightforward and easy. And as a developer, that's something I'm always a huge fan of. Proof of concept is fast, and then also you can develop and deliver a production-ready application in an amazingly quick amount of time, which is really important, especially during times like these. The nice thing about the email delivery is that Powbox handles the optimization of the secure delivery so that you basically plug and play the code that delivers the email, that sends the email, and Powbox handles the encryption, whether or not the receiving end has built-in TLS encryption, or we need to create another way for them to view the encrypted message. Another big thing that Powbox offers is a business associate agreement included for all customers, which is an important part of HIPAA regulations for any service providers for covered organizations. And lastly, which is something I like to see, is that we already have an SDK support set up for 7 different languages, from Java to C# to PHP, Perl, Ruby, and that doesn't. That's not the limitation. That's just what we have the SDK ready to go for. But this can really integrate into any system. On the next slide, it's a very simple slide. It's a very simple picture of how Powbox's email API can drop into the communication pipeline. So if you imagine if your company has its secure data of protected health information that you want to share with patients, and you want to avoid the fax machine, or you have these built-in processes that either generate letters or faxes, you can imagine the Powbox email API fitting in that same area as its own script, which would be part custom script that you are building on your organization side, and part using the Powbox email API. And then when that message is created, it's sent out to the patients in whatever encrypted format they can receive email by. And as Nick mentioned, it's not just communication between clinics and labs and hospitals and the patients, it's also communication between those organizations themselves. So on the next slide, we see what is essentially the same diagram, but instead of people on the receiving end of these messages, it's other systems, other businesses, other companies who need that information as well. So again, it's customized email delivery encrypted to however that other system, whether or not they're part of Powbox's or a customer of Powbox or not. I mean, ideally they all would be, but whether or not they're customers of Powbox, that message and information will be encrypted. On the next slide, I'd like to kind of talk about patient portals and apps. Nick talked about this and how it can be really frustrating. And I'd just like to talk about it from a personal standpoint. As someone with a disability who uses a wheelchair, I'm quite familiar with the process of jumping through hoops to get things signed, delivered. It happens all the time. It happens for me several times a year, whether it's getting parking permits signed by my doctor or other documents that I need to prove my disability or what have you. I'll have to physically go in and pick up the document from my doctor because I do not have a fax machine in my basement garage. I don't even have a landline anymore. And I know there's ways to do faxes online, but it's yet another piece of this puzzle that just creates friction. And especially for someone like me who has these extra needs, you really want to make it easy for people to stay engaged in their healthcare. And it's not just people who have consistent healthcare needs, it's everyone. Like, we want to make it easier for everyone. And especially with COVID and contact tracing, if it's made difficult, I mean, there's already so many things people don't understand or don't hear or are confused about, and making that process even more difficult is something that's just going to keep dragging us down. So You see that dog there jumping through hoops. I can't even jump through hoops physically anymore. I'm just done with it. I don't want to deal with patient portals and apps. I want to just get the message in my email, print out the form, and mail it on to the next organization. And so that's where something like the Paubox email API can really fit in in a bunch of different areas.